Welcome, everybody, to the Mighty Nerd Podcast. I am Solid Snarf. Joined with me today is Fist Truck.
Hello!
All right.
That's you.
All right.
That's you.
Yep. That was just for the intro, but that's cool. That's cool.
Hey, that was my intro.
Well, not gonna lie, not a lot of shit happened this week. Being at the first week of the new year, 2024.
Yeah. At least specifically with video games.
Yeah.
Like I looked through the week's news and it was like there really wasn't much about it unless there was like, you know, a video game on Epstein's Island or something.
Yeah.
There really hasn't been much news about it.
Yeah, dropping that over the new year was slick move.
I wonder if they covered it on IGN.
I would be surprised.
It's like Epstein Island and GTA 6.
Oh no! Oh no!
I mean, that would go. That seems like it'd totally be a headline, for, like on one of these websites.
Oh no!
Title the podcast: Epstein's Island GTA 6.
No! I refuse.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So there's been a lack of news, which is fine.
Yeah.
Because it gives us the opportunity to talk about actual topics.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, we can start with tabletop stuff, or we can. Well, I mean, I have one piece of gaming thing.
Well, let's start with tabletop. I think that's the order we typically do shit in.
Okay.
So it's not really news, I guess, but after just doing
discussion.
doing some quick perusing over on EN World or N World, however they call it, was an article written by Morris. That's the whole name of that guy who started the website. And it features, or it's about an essay written by a man named Ben Briggs, a D&D historian, according to the article. He apparently wrote a book about the history of D&D. I guess it's where you get D&D historian from.
Yeah.
And he wrote an essay about how that the golden age of tabletop role-playing games, as we know it, is coming to an end.
Very doom and gloom. Very doom and gloom.
I actually have that exact phrase written in my notes here. That's okay.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. I guess I'll like quickly summarize it, and I'm gonna skip over a lot of stuff that was in the essay. So, like just add, please fill in the blanks if you got anything.
Yes.
The point being made right now, or the point that's typically being made in the essay, is that now that there are more games coming up right now, or coming out now, that are competing with D&D, and to add to that, D&D is coming out with, I don't know, a refresh, whatever, but we'll just say a new edition just to make it easy. And all this coming together will just dilute the player base in a way that will be in general destructive. So to add on to that, the newer games coming out will most likely see diminishing success as time goes on, leading to a net negative for TTRPGs as a whole. So he brings up Critical Role playing Candela Obscura versus playing D&D. As an aside, they still play D&D, but they are making their own fantasy type game. And then he also brings up the MCDM RPG and the MCDM crowdfunder, and that the MCDM in the future, if they make more crowdfunders, or which I imagine they will do more crowdfunders for their RPG, the very big likelihood is that they will not be as successful as the one that they currently have, or I guess that just ended, for their RPG. That's the gist of the essay.
Yeah.
Or at least that I got from it. So I'm sure I know there are things I just skipped over for the sake of brevity. But we could get into that. Is there more that you want to add that I missed?
No, just the main point was just having more tabletop RPGs dilutes the market. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then he specifically referenced TSR in the 90s, when they were kind of dying off, and that at the start of, I guess at the time would have been second edition, right?
Yeah.
Second edition's lifespan. By the end of it, like the campaign settings they were putting out were like they were drawing in just like several or $7,000 in revenue in total, which is considering that nowadays you could buy a really nice TV for that much money. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about this? Because we haven't spoke. Typically, we'll speak about topics before we get to this point, but we made it. We specifically made a thing to save our opinion celibacy for this moment. So, what do you think about this?
All right. I am a tabletop RPG guy. I like it.
Enthusiast.
Enthusiast. I like the different games. I like what the different games bring to storytelling. I don't think necessarily a whole story or campaign is necessarily shaped by a certain rule set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the stuff is transferable. Campaign settings and all that stuff. It's important what game you choose and what rules you have, because that shapes kind of what type of game you're gonna run. But I think
the flow of it.
Yeah, the flow of it. The majority of it is, the person in charge, the person making it, can make it into whatever they want. That prefacing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, for me personally, this applies. For me personally, right? Because I'll play a multitude of games. But I do believe he is correct, as a whole. You are splitting the market by quite a bit. And people that are going to do the MCDM tabletop are going to be a fraction of D&D players, and then people are going to be who do the Darrington Press tabletop RPGs are going to be a fraction of D&D people, and it's you're pulling from this greater whole of an audience, and you're only getting pieces of them, and then you're breaking the pieces off into pieces. Because I think at the end of the day, D&D is still going to be a monster.
Yeah. There's no. And if we somehow get another Pathfinder situation, that'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it sucks that the collaboration has ended. So in that way, the goal, if that's what you consider the golden ages of tabletop RPGs, just the collaboration of multiple people, multiple companies making content for one thing for everybody to play. And it's just, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can have everything. Then if that's what you mean by it, I would say that's true. I would say that's coming to an end, because you can either be, assuming D&D does an open game license for their next one.
Yeah.
And doesn't fuck with it. It's going to be profitable to keep making stuff for them. And then smaller companies and single people, that's their choice of, hey, do I want to make something that makes me feel that I want to do, or do I do something creative, but I need to be under this platform of D&D to make money and make a living? Yeah. That choice has to be made. So.
Yeah, and you see even right now with companies like Monty Cook Games, they do Cypher System and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they eventually, for a while they were just putting out stuff for their own system. So it was like Numenera and Cypher System, and I don't know, they have I think it was called The Strange, and now they're doing Old Gods of Appalachia, I think it was called, and now they're doing I forgot the name of it, but Magnus Archives or something like that. But they have all their own stuff, and then eventually they released a 5e source book. Like after not doing stuff, and or if you do or do not know, Monty Cook is like the guy who, yeah, I'm not gonna say he was the only one, but he's like one of the key figures behind third edition D&D.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, now he's kind of like, I mean, I'm not gonna say he's back on D&D, but his company, in general, are now releasing 5e products. Like they recently just put out a book called, I think it's called like The Weird or something like that, or something like weird. It's I hate to use the same word. That's the title of the book, but just like weird sci-fi, really wacky stuff to put in your game. And then you see even Paizo, I think, put out 5e content semi-recently.
Really?
Yeah. Like I'd have to double check, but I think it was like in 2022. They put out something. Yeah, they put out one of their adventures for 5th edition. And it's supposed to. Oh, actually, no. It's supposed to come out. Oh no, I'm wrong. Okay, I am definitely wrong. It's coming out in May. So they're converting their adventures.
Is that around the 6th edition release time?
I guess so. Yeah.
6th edition is supposed to release like spring or
I mean, they
right?
haven't given an official.
I mean, the quote unquote
thing,
rumors,
but there was
right?
like there was that really, really, really funny thing. Right? There was that really funny thing where on their own material it said coming May 2024. Yeah, but so let's see. They put out a bestiary for 5e. They put out they put out like adventures for 5e, like their Pathfinder adventures. They converted them. They're releasing more stuff for 5e. So even Paizo, arguably their biggest competitor or one of their biggest competitors, is putting out D&D content.
Right. And that's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
Where it's like a competition, but I don't.
Yeah.
Like. Again. We were talking about something like this earlier before this. I was like, I don't know if I have a naive outlook on things,
okay.
but is it like there is competition, but you can
Does
still,
everyone like see it like that or something?
Yeah,
or?
like I assume D&D looks at everyone else.
I mean, it's a publicly traded company.
Yeah,
they have to. Like it's, there's no way they wouldn't. I just hit my microphone. I'm sorry.
That's good. But it's like, do we think that is it Cobalt Press? Yeah, Cobalt Press and Darrington Press. And
that's the Critical Role.
Yeah. Darrington Press and MCDM are going to be at each other's throats because they release two competing games.
I don't think like relative to each other they will be at each other's throats. Also, like they are competing for like the fantasy RPG space, but they're not like the game's built different, I guess, because I know the Cobalt Press one is like D&D adjacent, like it's pretty D&D adjacent. Yeah. I don't know the other two, but they just use different dice, so I assume like even something as simple as that just changes a lot. So yeah, I doubt they're competing with each other directly, but I feel maybe this is like the opposite of being naive, or sorry, this is like naive, but in like the opposite end of the spectrum.
Nihilist?
Where I feel like if maybe but I feel like if you're running a business, you can't not look at it as competition.
Yeah
like you kind of now you don't have to see it as some kind of like it doesn't have to like draw any kind of animosity or something like that, like because it's like at the end of the day everybody's kind of like we're in it together in a sort of way. But at least in D&D, because also I think it's easier to like punch up or something, right? And no one would have an issue with it. But if like you're seeing like, okay, how can I maybe not, I'm trying to pull people from D&D, because if you're trying to make that then I feel like you might have already lost. But regardless, since D&D is usually the gateway for many people,
Yeah.
You do have to. I feel like you would have to look at it as some sort of like, competition thing, just to, I guess, just to stay viable in a way or sorts. Because like you could look at. Sorry, go.
Oh, well, I'll make a bet. Make a bet. All right, make a bet.
Okay, I'm not gonna put money down, but sure.
Yeah, I think, um, these smaller companies that are pretty much companies because they're built off of, community and media. Like they have their own media first, and then they made the companies, and they're going to go making their games, like Critical Role. And then MCDM, they have their YouTube channel, and like the head is Matt Colville.
Oh yeah, he does reference to the YouTube channel in a way that I thought was pretty. I don't know how to say this in a nice way.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I'm trying to be mature.
Like what did he say?
Well, just saying. God, it was like the tone that I read off of it was like, that his channel.
He printed it?
Well, no, that Matt Colville's channel, YouTube channel, like he was giving D&D advice, and in a way yes, and in a way no, because he was giving DM advice, which can be GM advice. It's like advice on how to run a game.
Right.
It was pretty like some things are inherent to like D&D, but more so they're inherent to like.
Oh,
fantasy
I know. You know
stuff.
what? I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, but now he's only put like in the past 2 years he's only put out like 20 videos, and so one of them, like, they're not all just about running the game. Like he's got like a TV review, and he did one of the videos is an interview he did with like Jackson Crawford, I believe the guy's name. It's like a Norse mythology or not mythology. Oh my god, just like a guy, Nordic Norse historian guy.
Okay.
Like that's super like I totally butchered his like the proper title for that, but that's the gist of it. And it kind of comes across in a way when I read it was just like, man, he don't do the stuff that he used to do. And now I'm not being mature, but but I'm like, it's one of those things where I don't know it. I can't. I'm trying to like after just doing that like very mocking tone, trying to find a way to say like it comes across in a very like, fuck, man.
Like I was there first.
It sounds like it sounds like he's bitching about it, man.
Yeah.
That's really I can't fucking I don't know how else to not say this without using French, but like there's like it sounds like he's got the other shit that he's made over the years that helps a bunch of people run their games. Why does he have to keep doing that one thing? It's like a Dance Monkey Dance scenario. I'm like shit like that was the one part of that essay where I'm like, man, stop it.
Yeah. That was ridiculous. So that was inside in the thing. And I just saw them reference it. And I was like, but yeah, because exactly like you said, like even if he makes D&D content, it's content for every tabletop
It's system
RPG.
agnostic.
Yeah.
It's content for people that want to run a game, start a game. And on top of that, it's completely ignoring the content that he's made, like even aside from the Patreon stuff, which obviously you have to pay to get access to that, but just like on the MCDM specifically, like there's a Matthew Colville channel, and then there's an MCDM channel.
Yeah.
On the MCDM channel, they're uploading videos about designing a game. And imagine how many people that could possibly be inspiring to do it themselves. Like even on a scale, not on a scale of like, making a product to print or even making a product to sell, but just like doing it in the first place. And I feel like just talking about, hey, he all, he used to upload videos about this stuff, and now he, the past 2 years he's only uploaded like 20 videos, and some of them aren't even about like running the game or about D&D. And it's like, I feel like that's such a narrow-minded
yes.
Viewpoint to have when you know.
And I think it's also just misrepresenting like what's going on.
And also like, how do you, for anybody, right? Anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he started uploading videos in like 2016. That's definitely not when I started watching, but who over 7 years does the same exact shit and is into the same exact shit that they were 7 years ago?
I don't know.
No one. Fucking no one. Even you can still be into the same hobbies, same kind of stuff, like like guitar, right? We play guitar. I still play guitar and play guitar for a long enough time that I can't.
How many videos can you make on the major scale? Like,
yeah, or on the flip side, like in my case, just saying, if I'm playing guitar 7 years ago, I was, whatever I was caring to learn or wanting to play, and whatever I'm trying to learn to play now is different. It could be the same genre of music, but it's not the same stuff.
Right.
So it's like, or maybe even what I'm trying to, like whatever I'm trying to develop is different from when it was 7 years ago. Like we grow, we change, like that kind of shit. I mean, it's still like the same core at the end of the day, but to do the same thing over and over again. And it's like, there's hundreds of videos of that, and it's that more, give me more. Where
so
I find that to be very, very it's in bad faith, I feel.
Yeah, because like bringing up, like it's like stating facts and like attributing the cause to them.
Like one must mean the other.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, he's not making any D&D content. He's only made like 20 D&D videos this year, so that means this. And it's like, no,
no, not necessarily. Like,
and all of his D&D content, like specific D&D content, is a lot of it's transferable to other tabletop RPGs. It's not. I don't get the feeling that he gets the feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then there was a Critical Role point that he made, where now instead of Critical Role playing, like saying voice actors are playing D&D, you'll say voice actors are playing Candela Obscura. Aside from the fact that they still play D&D, I think at this point, Critical Role is the worst part of Critical Role. I don't watch Critical Role like that. I've watched Dimension 20 a bit and have enjoyed it, but easily the worst part of watching these people play these games is when they actually play the game. Like, I don't like somebody, if there's the combat Jesus fucking Christ, that is so boring, man. It's so and it's so long. Like, it's and so like Critical Role, I think D&D needs Critical Role more than the other way around. Like Critical Role, I feel like they can go off on their own. They could play, like if people are watching them play Candela Obscura, that's because they don't give a fuck. Like they just want to watch Critical Role play, do their thing. They want voice actors to do the acting thing. Yeah, in a different setting in that case.
The great thing about watching Candela Obscura is the fights don't drag on. They're like narrative points. So it's
they're
very
part of
cinematic.
They're part of the story. Yeah. Because like there really ain't much, like if you're playing D&D and you're like, all right, you get ambushed by fucking, gnolls or orcs or something. It's like,
move
that's not
five squares this way.
Yeah, but that's not a story beat. I mean, you can make it a story beat, but like, really, realistically speaking, if you're just doing random encounters, does every single one of them have to be like this rich, deep story thing? Right. Right. Now, the other argument is don't do random encounters like that. And to be honest, I think that's where I've kind of reached with like the point I've reached with it. But, it's, I think saying that Critical Role not playing D&D is somehow a bad thing. I feel like I haven't even said my opinion on the essay in general, but I don't know. I feel like it's hard for me to disagree with him outright.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the article outright, and he references when this shit happened in the 1990s. Like I have no reference of that. I'll have to take his word for it, but it does seem doom and gloom for doom and gloom's sake.
Because the thing that happened. Sorry, go.
And like, yeah, again, he says things that are true, diluting the pool. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think you can be fans of multiple things. And if, Critical Role has the most audience, they're going to be the one that succeeds. If there's only one that can succeed, right, it's going to be the one with the biggest audience, the biggest support. But I don't believe that just because you have the biggest audience, meaning everything else is going to die. You know what I'm saying? I think there's room for everything here.
Yeah. Another thing was that in the 90s, it's not the same as it is now.
At all.
Because in the 90s, the only way you could really sell a product was by making a book.
Yeah.
The only way you could really get anything, make a product in general, was to work with a publisher.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like, people just release shit on their own. They'll, you have Kickstarter, you have crowdfunders. Like, so many things have just come to market because of that.
That fucking thing that he said actually kind of pissed me off. His point of MCDM, their next Kickstarter is not going to be as successful. Why is that even a point? Like, if it is true, which I think it is true, I think it's a true fact.
Yeah, I think it's true. Yeah,
but it doesn't need to be that's fucking successful.
Yeah, not every Kickstarter has to be $3 million or $4 million. I think there are 4 now, but not every crowdfunder has to just generate $4 million. But like, all it has to do is fund the product. That's all it has to do.
Like,
and if it keeps funding the product, then that's it. It's like a very, I feel like a lot of the points being made while referencing what has happened in the past, refuses to take into account how things have changed over the years, how at least the modern landscape is for TTRPGs, and also only focusing on like the big things, like, oh well, Critical Role isn't going to do. It's like, yeah, but there's like a shit ton of people who play this that don't even watch Critical Role, like me. Like, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And if, like, does it have to be like that? No, it does not. It does not have to just be like, like, I don't think just because of D&D is mega big that everything else, like, therefore that means good.
Yeah.
Especially with the way that they're trying to take D&D in, like, at least with the whole online stuff and the virtual tabletop thing.
Yeah, I think they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. So I don't. I mean,
and it's like I think there's a point to be made that
I don't think they're going to be as popular.
No, but I mean, movies and shit, all that. It'll bring more people in. I think there's a point to be made that he's trying to make, but I think there are different points that he should have done instead of just spewing out these, quote unquote facts and assuming that will attribute to the end product. Like, the way that I see things going down, like if the quote unquote golden age ends, like, that's a high probability.
I think that'll be the case.
But I think the reason why it would go down is because, we're so segmented as people nowadays, right? It's like, you could be like, oh, I'm a Critical Role person. Oh, I'm an MCDM person. And then it's like these communities start fighting with each other because like they think it's going to be like Xbox, PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And they start eating themselves alive, and that's the way. That's a possible future that I see, right?
I doubt it.
Like, no, to his point, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to make doom and gloom points, I think that's the most plausible way to go about it. I don't think him saying that, oh, their next Kickstarter is not going to be as good is relevant. So if I'm playing devil's advocate and I wanted to make a point of doom and gloom, I would go in that direction. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying that's the most plausible way it could have happened. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I see it maybe not being as big of a thing in popular culture, but insofar as it being like equating it to how it was like all like dead or whatever it may have been, even though it wasn't, but you know, the 90s or something. Nah, like nah. That like now instead of just the thing is that back then everybody not, and I know this is not the case, but still, or this was not the case, but everybody placed their eggs in one basket, and so now if like in this case if D&D goes to shit, who cares? Or I mean, there are people that care, but like there are other things there that fill that void. So it's not like it's gonna be bad, or you know, oh,
Right.
we don't have D&D, we have nothing. Like that's, and I know that was never the case, but regardless, you know, especially with the fact that you don't just have to rely on physical books to get something to people,
Yeah.
like that's, and you don't have to rely on big publishers. It's shit's change.
Yeah. I think the only, because like, you know, real world, like what do you call it? When your immediate vicinity, the people around you,
Yeah, yeah. I
when
get
you
what you're
have
saying.
a
Like a bubble or something.
yeah,
Or...
like a bubble, I guess. When something happened, anecdotal, our
Yeah. Okay.
anecdotal evidence of what's going on around us, right? Baldur's Gate 3 got so many people interested in D&D.
Yeah.
What that means to me is that I'm having friends asking me about D&D. I'm offering to run games for them, and then I'm going to get them to play the games that I want to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have nefarious intent. I do have nefarious intent
Okay.
behind running D&D games, because you know it's a toe in the water to a bigger world that I want to share with my friends. Like if I can get my friends to do cool shit that I like to do, then you know props. Like
Yeah.
I'm very
Okay.
happy. I'm a happy boy.
Yeah.
But if they stop at D&D, like I'm all right with that too.
I'm not.
I'm not. You must.
I'm not. No, just cause there's like so much other shit. It's
Yeah.
you know, and D&D doesn't do. I mean, we have fun with it, but it doesn't do everything properly. But that's we've
Like
talked about that before.
my Destiny friends that I just joined a new clan like maybe 3 months ago. They're all cool people, and then Baldur's Gate came out, and then they're all like, "Yo, what's D&D?" And I'm like, "Hey, I play D&D. I can run us a Destiny D&D campaign." And they're like, "You could do that? That's crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah." And
It's
then
called Starfinder.
I put and then when I put my fingers together like Mr. Burns, and I'm like, "Excellent." And
like you guys don't know what D&D is anyway. I could just run a different game, and you're like, this is D&D.
I mean, yeah, but it's like I think we should take this opportunity of like these things getting released, like the movie comes out, everybody enjoys the movie, now they want to play D&D. Critical Role comes out, and now they want to play D&D, and everybody, and Baldur's Gate comes out, they want to play D&D. I think it's important the way like the tabletop RPG community handles things, where you know I've seen in the past, I've seen them eat themselves, where they're like, if you're doing this, then you're bad for doing this. So it's like if you're playing, I could see it on Twitter, right? If you're playing D&D, you're supporting A, B, and C, and you're being a piece of shit.
That's Twitter. Bro.
Yeah, and a person that is not in that world, right? Looking at that, it's like, well, fuck you, right?
Yeah.
But if you enter it with like compassion, like, oh, I do like D&D. Things have changed. I'll run your D&D game, and now you can see what other stuff is around that circle and see if you like it. It's important how we engage with new people.
Yeah, and you know, just I feel like just having, I don't know, just like the thing with the essay is that I at least getting back on it, like there's a point to being made about it, like these games or D&D or maybe tabletops, like tabletops as a whole or TTRPGs, kind of like waning in popularity. but it's like having, it's like a really stupid analogy, but it's like having like 2 cookies versus 1 cookie. Where like, do you really need to have 2?
Yeah.
No. But 1 is still pretty sick. Like that's, just because it's not as popular doesn't mean that it's like somehow now,
right.
yeah, like it's some sort of like zero-sum thing where it's like either either it's like top of the food chain, either TTRPGs are like, like this happened with, I guess getting back on guitar, it's happened like guitar companies and a lot of companies during the pandemic where like sales just went through the fucking roof.
Right.
And now they're having to adjust for the fact that sales aren't going to be like that again, but somehow they still have their number, there's always has to be year-over-year growth. So, when the next year isn't the year where everyone's stuck inside their homes just buying shit, then, somehow it's like, instead of, because of the way things work, it's terrible. And people they were like, oh, we have to cut jobs, shit, even though it's just like, you somehow thought that like the anomaly was the regular.
Right.
Like that's how I feel like the tabletop stuff is. I feel like tabletop games are going to remain more popular than they ever were as a whole, but maybe as popular as it was, a couple years ago. No.
Yeah.
Like that's
and that's fine.
That's fine. So that was our spiel on that thing, on that essay.
Want to talk about video games or video games?
Well, let's see. We got what about, let's start with your topic.
Oh, well, I just wanted to bring up little game called Link's Awakening. There's a PC port of it.
Little known. What?
There's a PC port of it that was made from the ground up using Nintendo's assets, right? And you know what it fucking does?
It gets shot down by Nintendo?
Well, not yet. Hold on. don't blow your load too early. All right. You know what it does? It runs the world all at once. So
you just walk into the dungeon.
You just walk into the dungeon. Well, no, the dungeon's in its own place, right? But the open world all runs at once. And then the dungeon all runs at once. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, like, there's no, in Link's Awakening, when you move to the left of the screen, you go into another screen, which is
a new thing
to the left. But in this one, it's just expanded, and you just walk you just keep on walking.
Yeah, so it's like a mostly seamless world.
And then
that's cool.
It's really cool. And, they have quality of life stuff, and it's built from the ground up, so the logic is different to where everything can run at once. But it also has some glitches because everything's supposed to only run in a box. So when you have everything running at once, it's not like enemies run into the next box. They stay in their box.
Oh, okay.
And
but did it get it with cease and desist yet, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went to look at their site again, and there's a download link, and you click the download link, and it says, it takes us to this page. To whom it may concern, I am authorized representative of Nintendo of America Incorporated, owner of the following copyrighted material PA 00222.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right,
patent 0 something Link's Awakening.
Whatever, we get it.
Yeah, and they say if you fuck around, you find out, and they found out. So
I don't get why people do. I hope like when they do it, it somehow like gets their foot in the door for something. Like not Nintendo, but like in general, or like it. I hope like there's some sort of like a net positive from doing this, because like it always ends the same way.
So here's the thing, right? Their game was made from the ground up, right? To work on PC. It's not a port. It's a built-up game, right?
Yeah.
But the patent that they're infringing on is they're using all of the textures and all of the art, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're also using the trademark.
Yeah, trademark too.
You can't
Yeah.
just make a Zelda game.
So, the reason why it's shut down is because when you downloaded the game, it was like a full working game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with emulator stuff.
Yeah.
The way you do mods for old games for emulators on PC is you write something that alters the original code to run the way you want it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you build out these worlds using existing code. So you just sell the modification and the person needs to have the original game, right?
Yeah, but in this case, that's not the case. Or...
This is not the case. They just took everything as a whole package and gave it to you. So that's why they were shut down. Now, if they can find a way around that,
I mean, they'd have to make a new game.
Well,
like they'd have to get rid of everything that's Zelda.
Theoretically, from what I understand, the way they would do it is switch out all the textures, or like have you put your own textures in, if that makes sense. So you get your own texture files,
like,
and then
like Zelda.
Their game will run, and then you add it to the game after the fact when they give it to you.
Yeah. So if you have like spaghetti and stuff instead of Link,
yeah,
like that'd be okay. But it's like, you know, like if it has even just a lick of Nintendo anything in there, like, I mean, it could, whether it's using their code or their IP, they can shut it down.
Yeah, which is totally within the right.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's like near and dear to my heart. I think Link's Awakening is my favorite Legend of Zelda game.
Okay.
Just because I guess it's nostalgia. It's like
nostalgia,
my first also. And I spent so many hours on the Game Boy.
First too. Yeah.
And it's just like seeing it played. Like you gotta look at the YouTube videos. I felt something, you know. And then I went to go download it, and they were like,
"As God intended."
Nah.
Now, that'd be me if like an F-Zero. If they did like a from the ground up thing for F-Zero GX, I would probably like.
Yo, my favorite.
I would probably be milked.
My favorite fuck you moment between you and John was when he told you that they're remaking F-Zero, and you got so excited.
No, he didn't say they were remaking F-Zero. He said they announced a new F-Zero game, and I was like, what? And then I saw it, or he told me, and I was just like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, it was
F-Zero.
And then like
you tried and then you tried doing it too, and I already knew at that point or something. It's like, oh, fuck you.
Because it's like you don't get excited about new stuff.
Anything,
right?
Anything.
And it was
like literally could be like. You know, I think the only other thing that will also excite me like that is if they did an actual Dark Souls remastered.
Yeah.
Not that bullshit that they put out a few years ago. Like an actual...
From ground up, proper, the Demon Soul treatment.
Like what they... Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah. If they did that with Dark Souls, I would like cream. Yeah. It would be pretty nice. But otherwise, like, you know, when it comes to new shit in general... Probably be.
So that's all I had to talk about for Link's Awakening. It's just sadness. I had my hopes, and dreams demolished.
Yeah, I don't know why you would have them in the first place. Like, it's just one of those things, man. Like,
it just looks so
you
good.
told me about it was the first thing I said. Did Nintendo shut it down?
Yeah.
Like, that's how it always goes. I remember there was like A2, the Metroid 2 remake or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Where somebody went and like totally redid Metroid or Metroid 2 or something.
Right.
And it was like super cool, and it got shut down, and this is like when Nintendo started getting known for doing that shit. I remember somebody they did the intro for Ocarina of Time completely in Unreal Engine 4.
Oh wow.
And I actually downloaded that and played it, and it was super fucking busted, but it was but it was nice. It was nice as like, you know, I guess like a proof of concept, but that's it. But yeah, Nintendo shut that down too. Like it's all they do. It's all they do.
Yeah.
And people, I don't know why. Like I understand the fan base is like, obviously the fan base is super excited on this stuff. They want to do it, but on the flip side, it's like, do you think you're gonna be the one that like somehow they're cool with? It's one of those like, spend your time on someone who gives a fuck. Like that's who gives a shit, as opposed to a company that will like step on you. Like that's is the way I see it.
Yeah.
So, speaking of stepping on me, I don't even know why I said that. I don't find that appealing in the slightest. So there's, so I've been playing Final Fantasy 16 a lot recently.
Nice.
I'm almost done with it. According to the PS5, I'm 90% of the way through the game.
How much testosterone is that game?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Not. There is testosterone, but it's not like
overbearing.
No, it's far from it. Yeah.
Cool.
It's just it's brought, like, I've been talking with some of our friends about like playing through it, and like I'm 50-50. I like it. I really like the game and I would recommend it. Like definitely that's without a doubt, I can easily say that. But like the pacing of the game, and I feel like there's a conversation, as we keep doing podcasts, we'll probably come back to, because pacing's such an important thing.
Right.
In games and, as a whole, is like the pacing for Final Fantasy is so fucked up. It's so fucked up that and like the part where you'll know what I'm talking about is that in order for me to judge how fucked up it is, I have to think of whether or not it's worse than the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Oh, no.
Which, as one of my greatest things I possibly have ever said, is that it's like a fucking like Final Fantasy VII has like I forgot exactly what I said, but something along the lines of like it has the pacing of a narcoleptic. Yeah. It's like a great game with the pacing of a narcoleptic, and because at one moment it's like pure excitement, and the other times you're falling asleep. Yeah. Like it's so awful, but it's really good. Like the game's really good, but the pacing's so genuinely bad. And Final Fantasy 16 is kind of the same, but then the thing in like Final Fantasy 16's case is that the same team that made it, or the team that made it, is the same team that makes Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
And Final Fantasy 14's pacing is absolute hot dog water. It's
that's a totally different game. No.
But it's the thing is that Final Fantasy 16, and like, maybe we talked about it here before, maybe we haven't, but I played Final Fantasy 16. I played through, like, I'm up to date with the story and the content and that kind of stuff, so I played a lot of it.
Right.
I think I have like 1,000 hours on it or something. So
Final Fantasy 14.
14, okay. Sorry. Yeah, 14. And the thing is that Final Fantasy 14, when you're playing through the story, is just a single player game.
Right.
It's, you like kind of just go to one spot, talk with the character, starts a cutscene, you do that over and over again. But the thing is that the quest design of Final Fantasy 14 is so awful, genuinely awful. And MMOs, if there's one thing they're not known for, having good, like, fun side quests or quests in general. They're pretty much just a means to an end. You get through them to just get to the end, whether it be like in Final Fantasy's case, you're just getting through the story, or like World of Warcraft, you're just getting through them to be max level, to do actual
work,
content,
to level up, to get to the strikes, to get to the raids and all that,
whatever it may be. And the thing is that they somehow managed to bring that level of quest design over to a single player offline mainline. Well, I guess Final Fantasy 14 is technically mainline entry, but Final Fantasy 16 is legit mainline entry in Final Fantasy. And but on the flip side, the game's combat is not turn-based at all. Like,
yeah, it's an action.
Which, to be fair, like Final Fantasy 15 did the same shit too.
Would you say it's more like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta type?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's an actual. Like, I mean, it's like pretty rudimentary in its action game isms.
Right.
But I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than Final Fantasy 15.
Right.
No, the combat it's fun. It's fun and it's cool. But the thing is that, like, the game, So I'm like 90% of the way through the game, and I got to what I would say is the first legit challenging boss.
Oh, okay.
and like in order to make the game more exciting for myself, I've refused to use healing items because like otherwise I would never have to think. And it's like, okay, if I don't use healing items, then maybe I'll like actually have something to fight. And that was definitely the best decision I made. But that's aside from the point. The thing is that the game, like, I'll have like these insanely over the top, just crazy, these spectacles of boss fights. I can't even English properly right now. They're so awesome. It's so cool. Yeah, like it's so cool. But the thing is that what they do, and what I think even Bayonetta has like kind of failed to do this, and Bayonetta is like kind of like, I think that game's like my gold standard, or what I see as the gold standard when it comes to just like over the top, super sick, exciting action game type stuff, while also still being a game you play. Because a lot of times with these spectacle things, and getting back to Bayonetta, they'll have these like insanely over the top spectacle fight type shits,
and they're quick time events.
But it takes either it's quick time events, or it's like you're not playing as Bayonetta, or the whatever character you're playing as something else that has super basic controls. So in Bayonetta 2, there's the first fight against like the sage dude, and this is like, I don't know, I'll say like first third of the game or something. He summons like this big dude to fight, and it's like, it's so good. It's so good because like the fight itself. I mean, the game just has insanely tight combat, and it's incredibly fun and exciting. But then you also in the background have like these two, kaiju type motherfuckers duking it out, and then every now and then he'll do attacks. Have the kaiju like attack you or something, and then after that it progresses to where you're like flying in the sky, and two of them are fighting in the background. It's ridiculous.
Hell yeah.
But then the fight ends with you playing as your kaiju fighting his, and all it is just you standing in front. Like I played the game enough where it's just a joke, because you can hit the Y button to like or the X button, I forgot which one, but you can hit one button to do like a punch, and then another one to do like an uppercut.
Okay.
And then you can dodge or something. And then I think you get another button to do like some kind of like range attack. But the thing is that you're always in his face, so there's no point. And so they give you these buttons to do different things, but all you could do is just spam the uppercut over and over again and just win. Like it's just like, it's just there for shits and giggles is what it feels like, when I would have rather have just like dedicated that last half or that last like portion of the boss's health to actually fight, doing the proper fight.
Right.
Final Fantasy 16, at first it appears that they're going to do that. But then they quickly actually make it so that when you're doing these like kaiju type fights, the controls are, maybe you're not doing the same exact actions as when you're a regular dude, but the way it controls and the way it plays is pretty much exactly like your regular dude. So the fights are legit.
Nice.
But they're also insanely over the top and really cool. And the thing is that the game goes from like these, I don't want to say it because it's spoilery. Like, I think just saying what happens in these fights is a spoiler.
Okay.
But like it's so I'm not going to say it.
Right.
But just like it has to be some of the most insane, over the top, crazy shit I've seen since playing Bayonetta.
Okay.
It's insane. Like if somebody told me this was gonna be a fucking Final Fantasy, no way. I mean, Final Fantasy has always had like cool, like, big boss fights or something like that, but they haven't had like this. They haven't had this shit. That's for sure. So, even like in Final Fantasy 15, they had like when you fight Leviathan, that was like super huge, right? But this game has shit that's way more wild than that. Okay. And yeah. And like when you fight, I mean, I guess spoilers for Final Fantasy 15, but the game's like 7 years old, or 8. Well, yeah, 7 years old. At the end of the game when you fight Arden or whatever, right? Like you're like flying through the city and duking it out. Like that's cool, but this game's level of spectacle and the fact that during these, in general, with these crazy over the top fights, you're actually still like playing the game as opposed to it just being kind of like a glorified cutscene. It's so good. It's so exciting that when that's done and then you're just back to like, you're in the hub and they have you talk to one character and they're telling you shit and they go, oh, hey, can you go with this guy and ask him this question? And then you go to the other end of the hub and talk to that guy for him to tell you to go back to the person that you just talked to. It's exactly the same quest design in Final Fantasy 14 and it fucking sucks. I hate it. Oh my God. But it's like, I don't know. I get the pacing, like after you've gone through this like crazy over the top, you know, like just pure adrenaline, you got to bring it back down. You know, like
do you have to bring it down to that though?
Yeah, it's like as opposed to slowing down versus hitting a wall. Like that's how it feels. And the thing is that like the story for the most part, there are a lot of things you do, and Final Fantasy 14 does the exact same shit. So that's why like I see how we got here.
Right.
Where there are things that happen in the story, the main story. These are main story quests. Where it seems borderline inconsequential to what you're doing, but then it comes back later. So they make it matter, but in a way where it's like the equivalent of saying this could have been an email. Like instead of having me run back and forth talking to, you know, characters doing this kind of shit, this could have just been one cutscene where all this stuff happens. Maybe you cut down some of the dialogue a little bit, but like instead of wasting my time having me walking back and forth, and like it seems like such a small thing to complain about. But you do it so much.
It's
you do it so much.
Like the most infuriating part of Final Fantasy VII, which like made me hate,
is that
a fucking supposedly you're supposed to love this character. That
fucking Aerith.
Fucking Aerith. Like she walks in front of you and you have to walk at her speed, and it's like grueling because you just come from a boss fight, an awesome boss fight, and she's like, "Hey, how you doing?"
Oh my God, chapter 5, chapter 4, chapter 5. After you fight the fucking Airbuster or whatever it was, that fight was so cool. And then you go crashing through a roof or something, and then you fight Reno or whoever, one of those guys. Yeah. And then after she's like, "Come with me to my flower village," and then you're just like, you're just on rails, tiptoeing for an hour. And then think about the beginning, right? Like we're talking about, if you haven't played the Final Fantasy VII remake, first go play it. We're talking shit, but it's really good. Second, we're not talking about like anything spoilery. Right. So
we just talked about two bosses. Right. It's fine.
Okay, but
the game is 30 years old.
It's like, it's okay. Like, I don't know what else
it's fine.
Yeah. So there's the beginning where you fight the scorpion thing, right? The beginning of the game. Yeah. That's super cool and exciting. And then afterwards you follow Tifa around and have to walk slowly around the town
to get water
for
filters.
like an hour and get water and whatever. Like, it's so boring. It's so fucking boring. And I don't get why. Like, there are ways to handle, like, God of War, right? I fucking wrote here. What did I write? Yeah, okay. So, like, God of War Ragnarok, right? I'm not even going to reference it. When it comes to other games, they're like, when it comes to their pacing, it's like, I don't know, I think it's, like, practically perfect because it's just
seamless.
Yeah.
But, like, as you're doing shit, things are happening.
Yeah, and when the thing is that when they stop not every time they talk, because they talk a lot in Ragnarok, but most of the time they talk, especially when it's a cutscene, it is worth your time. It is worth like everything. Yeah. It is as integral to the game as fighting a boss or something, right? Like there's, while still slowing down, right? Like if they're talking about stuff and it's like Kratos is whatever, like him and, you know, Atreus or whatever, fucking, you know, beefing or something, or just talking or whatever it may be. Even if that's not the same as like, you know, fighting some crazy huge thing and doing this intense boss fight or where a bunch of things are exploding or whatever, even if it's not that, you still slow down the mood, but you still keep me engaged, as opposed to like what Final Fantasy does is where
they make you
bring down
slow.
The mood and you lose me. Yeah. Like I start pulling up my phone to look at shit while they're talking. But the thing is that it comes back. Like there's okay, I'm not gonna say it, but like there's as vague as humanly possible in Final Fantasy 16, there is a probably spent like an hour or so or maybe an hour or two, it feels,
Mm-hmm.
doing like these quests
Okay.
to like build towards something.
All right, spoilers.
you're like-
There's 2 hours of gameplay doing quests. Got it.
Sugma. So you spend like 2 hours building towards this thing, like, or you're building a thing, and it feels like this could have been an email.
Yeah.
But then that thing becomes important later, so I'm like, okay, I like,
It all
I
comes
get
full
it.
circle.
yeah, it all comes full circle. I get it, but you still didn't need to I still didn't need to spend 2 hours doing this, like, for it to have the same impact on in the story. I feel so. It feels like the game is padded. That's for sure. And the thing is that, like, the game opens with like 45 minutes of story, which, like, I know in your case, and Tony, who we had on the podcast last week, is like at least when I hear you guys talk about it, it's like the worst thing in the world.
Oh, with the demo?
So,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's the first 45 minutes or 40 minutes are like super story driven, story heavy, that kind of stuff.
It's just,
I think that part is great to me. Like, it's getting me in, but it's also meaningful story.
right.
It's actual stuff that's worth paying attention
but like
to.
something, if you consider like this, it's not a new IP, but it's like it's a whole brand new story, right?
Yeah, I mean, each of them.
The cost of admission is high. It's 24 minutes of lore dump that you need to absorb to understand the rest of the game, right?
But the thing is that they don't do what some other games will do. Like, I think Horizon was really bad at this. Horizon Zero Dawn, where it's like, oh, you just start and they start talking about like, oh, this is the Karja and they're doing this or something, like the Shadow Karja Cartel or whatever. Like, they start throwing a bunch of terminology and stuff at, like, all that kind of shit at you with no context at all. As opposed to like Final Fantasy's opening, which, spoilers for the opening, but they're talking like they might be referencing, oh, it's like the Royalist or whatever, or Imperial or whatever. Like, they're referencing other factions in the context of war,
Right.
so you can even though you don't know that other group, you understand we're going to war with them.
Yeah.
If they say, oh, he's the dominant of Phoenix or whatever, you immediately understand this kid is the Phoenix, like the Phoenix thing, which if you know Final Fantasy, you know of these things. So that part you can follow. So I found, at least for me when I was playing it, I found the beginning and with the way they threw their terminology at you, or when they say somebody's branded and you see a tattoo on their face and no one else has a tattoo on their face, even the first moment you see that, you can follow. Like, you can follow these things.
Well, also think of the context in which we were exposed to it versus you. We did 24 minutes of the demo where we had like 5 minutes of gameplay and 20 minutes of lore dump. Whereas, you did the 20 minutes of lore dump, 5 minutes of gameplay, and then gameplay, right?
I guess there's that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But even still, cost of entry is high. And for a Final Fantasy game, like, that's what you go in expecting. But it's I feel like it is a bit more than other Final Fantasy games that you need to get a grasp of before you actually start playing the game.
No way. Nope.
Like, which one?
Almost every single one of them, man. Like, you're playing Final Fantasy 15, you have to push a car. You have to push a car, and they don't, like, on the flip side, Final Fantasy 15 doesn't explain shit.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you don't.
And then
But I'm talking about, like, stuff that a lore dump, right? That it's for you to get the rest of the game, you need a baseline knowledge. And that's what they do in the first 20 minutes of the game.
For Final Fantasy 15?
No, for your game. For Final Fantasy 16. 15, that's setting the mood, right? That's like, this is a bro journey. And like, I thought, like, I'm biased. I apparently have different opinions about 15 than other people do. I
love 15.
Yeah,
I love 15,
and I like the beginning. The beginning was super touching. I don't know.
I mean, the pushing the carpet is fine, but then, like, what 15 does is what essentially 15 does is the complete opposite, but instead of it being cutscenes, it's you playing the game, which sounds good until you try doing it again.
Oh yeah,
and you just
second
start,
playthroughs suck.
and then it's like, oh, what are you gonna do? Like Final Fantasy 15, and I said this when I first played it, that Final Fantasy 15 also has MMO level quests, but unlike Final Fantasy 16, where their quests are you going to talk to people over and over again, Final Fantasy 15 is like, go kill 6 dogs.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna give you like a super shallow whatever bullshit reason to get you to do it, but it's something to do, and it's like beyond inconsequential. There is no point to doing this, and there never is a point to doing this. Yeah. So like that's,
I guess
I'm okay with the story stuff in 16 for that beginning section.
Right.
Not what they do as you get through the game, and they have you go talk to this guy, then walk over here, go talk to that guy, then go back, walk back to the guy you already talked to, talk to him again, and then go do this, go like that. I'm not cool with, and I haven't even talked about the side quests. The side quests in Final Fantasy 16 have achieved something I almost never do when I'm playing games, at least games that I give a shit about playing.
Right.
I will not do them.
Yeah, understandable.
I refuse. There's just one thing Final Fantasy 16 that has, which is like a hunting board or something like that, where it's like a board that has a monster on it. It tells you what area the monster's in. You go fight it. It's like a monster. It's like a strong monster. So they're essentially just like the boss fights you could go do in the world. That's fun because it's more combat. I play the game. But the actual side quests of the game, oh my God, they're so... Final Fantasy 16, 14 has... If their story quests are awful, their side quests should never see the light of day. It's so bad, and somehow they managed to bring that over to 16. And I did like for the first couple hours I was playing the game, I was doing the side quests. I was like, I can't help but notice these are all shit. Like these all suck. Because now it's really inconsequential to the story. Like this shit does not matter.
Right.
And it's really boring. And I got to another area. I did one side quest, and it was still more of the same bullshit. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm done. I'm not doing this. Fuck this. I'm not doing these anymore.
Have you looked into New Game Plus at all? Have you seen anything about that?
No, because I haven't been in the game yet.
Can I talk about it or no?
If it's story-related shit, I would prefer not.
It's monster. It's ads and shit. On how...
What, do they just like change how monsters fight or...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, so can I talk about that?
Yeah.
All right, so it's like you go up to a certain level your first playthrough, but the next playthrough starts at that level. And the whole enemy lineup is changed. You have new enemies.
Okay, that's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, so the New Game Plus, from what I hear in 16, is super worth doing.
I have to try. As long as it's harder, like actually difficult, because the game like... there's this whole other thing about difficulties in games with Final Fantasy 16 that does not currently relate, or it does relate to pacing, but that's a whole other topic that I don't want to like super stretch this out over.
Well, I do need to go into that topic to bring up my point, because I was going to talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah, but the difficulty thing it's a big thing that I do. Like, I'm not going to get into the difficulty thing in regards to Final Fantasy 16. Right. Too in depth. Other than that, like the game is really, 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 really fucking easy. Like that's which in my case, it almost eventually gets difficult. And if you actually want to be challenged, don't heal. Just don't heal. I'm not even saying that as like some kind of like fart sniffing fucking like I only like games when they're really, really hard. No, the game it's either like
you'll have fun. It'll enhance your experience.
It'll actually make things exciting when you actually have to give a shit about being hit.
Right.
That's all. I'll leave it at that. But the pacing for games, and before you get into Spider-Man, it's like because I'll bring up so I have a couple other games here that talking about pacing as an example, like Bayonetta and Doom Eternal. Maybe Doom Eternal not so much, but Bayonetta is like the complete opposite of this, where it's just like all gas, no brakes.
Right. That's also
where it's just like go,
right?
Yeah, they're mission based. So
it's easier.
So they're way more focused. But so is 16 to a certain extent, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
Like you do walk through the world, but then there are moments where it's like a combat scenario or a combat like Yeah, when you select this location to go to, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same as being in a Bayonetta or Devil May Cry level.
Okay.
And those parts, that's the shit you live for. Those moments are the reasons why you'll walk from point A to point A to point A to point A to point B to point A to point and talk to people. So you can like you get the setup and then you get to those parts and it's like the payoff is for the most part worth it to me.
Right.
And also because I do unlike 15, and I'm just comparing it to 15 because it's the most recent one, but also because I do like I put a lot of time on 15. I really, really like 15. But
right.
The motivations for characters, the development of them, all that kind of stuff in 16, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I will always say that I'm not like a savant or not a savant, but what's the word? Like
literary genius.
Yeah. I'm not like the best person to talk to when it comes to like the quality of a game story. But when it comes to the characters in 16, there's no they are developed. They are properly developed. They are, like I like the characters a lot. Like which is a huge strength of 14. Like for people who have played the Shadowbringers expansion of 14, has probably one of the like best. Probably has one of the best like villains I've ever seen in a game, the best written villains I've ever seen in a game, or the best written just like story I've ever seen in a game. It's like and for an MMO, to even have a story that's like okay is pretty nuts because they tend to be all over the place because of the way an MMO is. But for 14, just MMO or not, the story is like insanely fucking good. Right. At least for the Shadowbringers expansion specifically. I mean, other ones are good, but that one's like the high point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like Bayonetta and like Doom, or Bayonetta's like all gas no brakes. Doom is like kind of like that, but there are a lot of moments. There's the time in between each fight arena, where you're just kind of traversing and exploring. That's kind of, I still think that's good pacing. And then on the flip side, and this is probably gonna be a minority opinion here, but I would bring up like Metal Hellsinger. I think is what it's called. You know that game?
Yeah. The metal. Well, yeah.
Metal Doom.
like
more
the music beat one.
Yeah, the one that's like a BPM but with Doom or something.
Yeah.
So I played through that when it came out. I was not a big fan, and I love Doom. I love Doom.
Right.
And I love metal.
Yeah.
And I love metal. So it seemed like it should be, I mean, even then Doom has metal, but in the context of Metal Hellsinger, it should have been like a
like cookies and ice cream.
Yeah, but instead it was not, that really didn't feel, I think because the problem with Metal Hellsinger is that it's literally nothing but just you go to one combat arena to another one, to another one, to another one, to another one, to another one.
No downtime.
No downtime, and you're kind of just always doing the same thing, which seems so dumb because Doom is the same way. But what Doom asks of you as a player, as you progress through the game, is like a mastery of the game.
Yeah.
And I felt like with Metal Hellsinger, what I was doing in the beginning was the same shit I was doing at the end. Like, I didn't... I like, you can only ever carry like 2 weapons at a time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you just pick the 2 that you want, that you like, and you just use that the whole time. As opposed to Doom, with specifically Eternal, that game is designed in a way where they're kind of forcing you to go between your whole arsenal.
Yeah. They definitely pulled that one out. That was great.
So Metal Hellsinger, well, I think in general people like it a lot, so I'm kind of minority opinion here, but like where I'm talking about the pacing of 16 and 7, like Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 7, where it's like you have like these crazy high moments and then just like long stretches of like boring.
Right.
On the flip side, like you can have a game like Metal Hellsinger, which is like all action,
but not enough variety.
Then it's like, yeah, not enough variety. And the thing is that eventually it becomes like, if you have nothing but high points, like if it's just high point all the time, then the high point becomes the norm.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, and so then it kind of comes back down in a weird way. Like Bayonetta somehow Bayonetta circumvents that by first you're not always fighting, you are exploring and stuff. But when you're fighting, the fights kind of create that ebb and flow just by difficulty.
Yeah.
Because like, crescendo with a boss fight. But when you're fighting enemies, they could be challenging, but it's not the same as like these crazy over the top, these big spectacles. But in Metal Hellsinger, the boss is the same for the whole game. So it's like, so you can like it changes the moves it does. So me saying the boss is the same the whole game is disingenuous, but
it's close enough.
And yeah, it's close enough where I'm just like, oh, okay, let's do this. So Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, in terms of pacing, I didn't notice it until I started trophy hunting, and I had to start a new game. Holy shit. So here's what happened.
Okay.
Here's what happened. Like,
you talking about the Spider-Man, the first one?
No, the new one.
Okay.
So the beginning, big spectacle, everything's cool, and then you get to know the characters and you find plot and stuff, and it's really cool. And you swing around the city, all cool stuff. And then you do personal stuff. I won't spoil it because Fist hasn't played it, which is stupid, but it also doesn't feel out of place because it's natural story progression.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it. I was happy. I was along for the ride. Everything was cool. Until I beat the game and I was cleaning out my trophies because I wanted to get platinum.
Play as Mary Jane.
Well, you can play the game before we talk about that.
Okay. Because that shit was garbage.
And I had every single trophy done except one trophy. It's to get 25 kills off of a web line. So, in stealth modes, in number 1, you can create a web line across the map, right? In small areas, and you can walk along it and tie people up. That's what I needed to do. I needed to get 25 of those. I only had 18 of those throughout the whole game. So, the only activities that I have at the end of the game are trial shit and robberies and stuff, right?
Okay.
So I'm trying to do the trial shit. There's no place to do it. I'm trying to do the robberies as Miles, he can go invisible. They see me no matter what, even if I'm in the vicinity. So you can't do any stealth at the end of the game. Okay?
Okay.
So I had to start a new game. Oh boy. Like, I played about an hour and a half before I could even get to a stealth part. And then I realized, and that's me skipping cutscenes. All those cutscenes are skippable, except for some of them. I was infuriated on all the shit that I had to do to get to a stealth part that everything was a tutorial. You do this. This is how you swing. You have this segment of swinging. You have this segment of fighting. You have this segment on your new powers. You have this segment on story. You have this segment on side missions. You unlock new side missions, so now you need to take pictures and shit. And then you go into a cutscene. And then the cutscene goes into story. And then you're not doing any Spider-Man stuff for the next hour. And then you get back into the Spider-Man shit. You still don't have any stealth shit. And then there's a tutorial on stealth. And that's where I got the achievement.
Okay. So is this something that you noticed when you were first playing through?
No, absolutely not. I'm talking strictly pacing on the second playthrough, like you said with Final Fantasy VII. It was disgusting on the next playthrough.
Yeah, like I refused to do it a second time. Like eventually I will play through it again, but when I was trying to play through it on hard, I couldn't. When I got to the Earth part, I just couldn't. Like, this is such a waste of time.
Bro.
Yeah.
Just to get that one, I got it. And now I can move on to another game.
Yeah, that is very self-inflicted, though, I will say.
But it's like if you want to play it if you want to play Spider-Man a second time, because it's like maybe I ran into a glitch because there's multiple different activities that you can do in the city, but by the end of the game, all I had was one type of activity. That's because I didn't complete that activity until the end of the game, but I completed every other activity before the game ended. But that's the only one that showed up on the map.
Yeah.
So maybe I ran into a glitch, but I don't think I did. Multiple playthroughs of Spider-Man.
Really, the thing with pacing, and like this, I guess in some way, because I at least played Miles Morales in the first one. The thing with the pacing in those games, and like this, I mean, God of War does this shit too, but just like a lot of these a lot of games nowadays is just how keen they are on making you walk slowly,
bro,
and listen to people talk, and you're like, this could have been a cutscene. This could have been a cutscene.
That's what I ran into in Spider-Man. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah,
like that's really the main thing. Because I was thinking, if I was gonna point at like at least from the time the other Spider-Mans I played, the problems with the pacing of those, that I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, but to have you play as Mary Jane in like these really dog shit stealth sections that are clearly like heavily scripted. There's only one way to do them. Like it doesn't matter. This is so, I hate, like I don't get why games feel the need to have you do shit like this. Like somehow, does that like enrich my experience?
I think it's just to pad. Because like what is a Spider-Man game? A Spider-Man game is you in an open world swinging through shit,
swinging around, people up,
and but that's like that's it, right? That's it. I guess they were trying to add other elements into it for breaking a pacing or to get you to connect with characters or something. Because that's in Final Fantasy VII. That whole slow part that we're talking about, Chapter 5 with Aerith, that's supposed to be like a show bonding how a character works instead of telling you that this character is supposed to be quirky and nice.
Yeah.
But it just came off as like you playing it, she's in the fucking way. Could you get the fuck out of the way so I can play the fucking game?
This shit up. Like, and it's like the first time around, I didn't mind it like that. I still hated it, but I didn't mind it that much.
Yeah.
It's just when they have you do it again where you're like, you could have conveyed this. Like, if you just had like, I do think you have to spend time with a character to I guess, like, bond with them or something, or to care.
If you beat the game once, you should have the option to skip those things.
Yeah. And I feel like if you just, through, like, effective storytelling, you probably convey the same idea with the cutscene.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a budget thing where we're making a cutscene would cost more money or something like that. Maybe. But at that point, I would just say, like, figure your shit out, because it just makes for, I think it just makes for a genuine, like, overall worse experience when you have so many moments like that. Like Final Fantasy VII, and
we're griping on one part of Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VII is an awesome.
We said multiple times.
Right.
It's great. If you haven't played it, you should play it. Right. Like, we definitely said multiple times, so I'm not going to care to say it anymore. But, like,
I still feel
same how I feel about 16. 16, I guess, like, some of the conversation around 16 has been, like, negativity, but I'm pretty sure that's going to... I heard it was, like, awesome. Like, I haven't heard any bad things about it. Yeah, there's, like, I've definitely seen some conversations, people going, like, yeah, it's all right. It's like, no. Like... I can't recall the last time I played a Final Fantasy game, if ever, where at least personally, I've given a shit about pretty much most, if not all, the characters, and it's not corny. Like, it still got cheese. It definitely got cheese, but like, it's so much less fucking like Cloud's such a fucking edgelord.
Yeah.
Cloud's such and Clive is kind of an edgelord, but you could see all the moments where he's always like a person, as opposed to Cloud, which is totally not unrelatable. like there is nothing of myself that I see in Cloud. Thank fucking God.
Cloud is from the 90s. Cloud is straight 90s boy.
Yeah, and no one in the 90s was like that either. But like, that definitely his edginess is a product of the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
Though. But I think like Final Fantasy 16, I definitely think is very much worth easily worth a playthrough. But it's just like it's the things with pacing, man. Like where if they just made the game tighter, like it doesn't have to be as long as it is, and you probably would have had a much more effective game. Like you would have been able to get your point across, and also like cut to the fucking chase.
Yeah.
It's not for whoops. It's not that I hate story sections. It's that I hate ineffective story sections. That's really it.
Yeah.
And that's the game has a lot of that stuff, just like the way Final Fantasy 14 does. And like it still kind of gets to a point at the end where you're like, all right, cool. Like that was good, but it could have been an email.
I just think of like games with like really, really are heavy on cinematic stuff, like Metal Gear Solid, right? They're notorious for a shit ton of fucking cutscenes,
when
right?
you play through it again, you just skip all that stuff. You just play the game.
Yeah,
it turns out to be like.
But then I think of like, what if those cutscenes were interactive and you needed to play through them? And it was like that Aerith scene where, you're walking slow and you go through it. And it would be a terrible fucking game. And it's like, I think certain things are just better as, put it as a cutscene, put a PNG up and just talk.
Yeah. The one thing I would say Final Fantasy does, like, because they did this shit in 14 and this happens in 16, and I guess I don't think, it's not a spoiler, but like every RPG under the sun, there is a point where someone kicks your ass. Right? Is that fair? Right?
Yeah.
That's fair. And when they kick your ass, it happens in a cutscene, and you're like, I bet if this was a fight, I would have just like washed this motherfucker.
Yeah.
But then he kicks your ass again in a fight. And in Final Fantasy 14, they did that bullshit in Stormblood. And it was so lame because you're doing the fight and it's like baby easy until he just hits the kill button. And then you're like, oh, he's so strong. Oh my God. When you just roll your eyes because like, you're like, that you're, once they have you do it the first time, you're like, you already kind of roll your eyes because it was just a walk in the park until they just decided to beat you.
Right.
And then, but you roll your eyes, but you kind of get over it, and then they have you do it like one or two more times.
Oh.
And then you're just like, bro, come the fuck on. Like, this is such a waste of time. In 16, they actually, they dial up the motherfucker's aggression like crazy. But when you actually fight him, at first you're like, oh, it's kind of like sort of a cake. Well, like, he's definitely tougher or trying to kill me more than anything else I fought before. But then eventually, I guess they turn on the kill button, but as opposed to just being like, I insta kill, you're dead. All sorts of shit starts happening that you can dodge and you can fight back. Like, you're probably not gonna win. I doubt you can win given the situation. But like, I don't know. When I got into the fight, I was like, this guy better kick my ass. This guy better kick my ass. And he kicked my ass, and I was like, I don't root to get my own ass kicked in a game if it weren't for the fact that I wanted to see it like develop in a better way, continue to develop. And they did that, and I was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, you don't want to in-game be like, I just wipe floor with this dude and then cutscene die.
Yeah, that's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
But speaking of wiping the floor, wipe the floor with this podcast, I'm sure. So
hell yeah.
There are more things to say about pacing that I'm sure we will come back to eventually in the future. When I play another game or one of us plays another game that makes this come up again. Which I'm sure will be the Final Fantasy VII Remake 2.
Oh, for sure. Guaranteed. It is guaranteed. I put money down on it.
Yeah. So everyone, thank you so much for listening.
Yep.
You can find Snarf on the Mighty Nerd Podcast.
Yep. I'll be here.
Yeah, you can find me youtube.com/c/fisttruck. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Until next time, Happy New Year. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.